but I didn't know that March was just such a rich month for our heritage, Chris. You know, it's so.
Come on.
I mean, obviously, everybody knows St. Patrick's Day is in March. Obviously, if you don't, spread out all over the world like we do. But it starts with Casimir Pulaski Day on the 2nd.
Well,
Chris,
yeah.
Are you doing
nobody's
well?
going out drinking or having parades for that poor guy.
Right. It's like it's a way to commemorate through alcohol the proudest people of your lineage. You know,
everybody's gonna go gold toe socks that day instead of big
I
Irish
can't get a hold of any of my tuck pointers that day.
Can't get anything done.
My chimney's falling apart. These guys aren't answering.
The shower needs some tile work done today.
Yeah, it's falling apart.
The St. Patrick's Day is obviously coming up. By the time this show comes out, it'll be before St. Patrick's Day. Yeah. Talking about St. Patrick's Day after St. Patrick's Day is kind of lame. The Irish definitely like to move on like everybody else and get back to just being normal Irish.
You don't want to forget about that night.
Yeah, right.
No reason to bring it up like it's an argument in your
let's
marriage.
Not talk about this. It's better to just do the Irish fade like you do out at the party, and then obviously
just see if the cops show up to the house, right?
I apologize, everybody. I'm the consummate Irishman. I know I got a little more in me than just Irish, but I do embrace the idea that if we're not communicating, we are not communicating. Meaning, like, if we're not, like, I hate the phone, I hate the texting. Like, I will talk your ear off if you're in my presence to the point you were like, yeah, I'm glad I don't have to see that guy again for a while.
Right. But you're really getting into AI, though.
Yeah,
you're really getting into that.
It's great. It allows me to express
a new world.
AI knows what's going on in this crazy Irish head.
Everybody start following us. Everybody start following us on Instagram and Facebook and where else are we? X and all that other stuff, because you're going to see some, you'll see some genuine Irish artwork about our shows.
Yeah. But as I said, I know like people are way more Irish than me. Believe it or not, Carrie is actually eligible, if not already an Irish citizen based upon her lineage. She is like one generation removed from, her grandmother came here from Ireland at 15 years old, with a big wave of people that came to Chicago particularly. But like what Irish is what Irish means to be. Irish is easy. Like when you're in the Emerald Society band and you play bagpipe drumming and your middle name's Patrick, like mine. I mean, it's like, oh, you must be Irish, and you're pasty and your skin, like if you look at my skin, it gets blemished on some level. But like, what's Irish to me, like as I know Ireland, is my cousins, the Scullys. My Aunt Carol and my dad were pretty tight, and her nickname was Gert. My grandfather gave her this nickname, Gert. He would refer to her as Gert all the time. And Carol was the consummate, Irish woman that had to put up with like an Irish husband. My Uncle Jake was the greatest guy in the world. He just recently passed, and part of my Aunt Carol has passed as well. And she had 10 kids.
God damn.
They were the ones that lived closest to us throughout when we grew up in New Jersey, and they lived over in a little house with 10 kids on a place called Conover Street. And my father said, we're going over to Conover Street, and you had to go under this bridge. It was called the Hole in the Wall, and you'd get there, and it was like that house was raucous, and there was always something going on, like always something crazy. My uncle was a blue-collar worker for the gas company, and my Aunt Carol was, just super nice to us every time we went over there. But that house was full of huge personalities and everything else.
Well, 10 kids, I would think so. What else did he worked and got your aunt pregnant, I guess.
He's a busy dude.
Try to remember all of them in order, and they're all such unique people and so hilarious. And dude, I could do a podcast on their family. I'm going to tell you that right now. Like the different levels, the stories and everything else. They were the consummate Irish storytellers too. They would have you laughing so hard. The funniest person that I actually know, human being that I know, is my cousin Michael. And I don't see him for 20 years, and he has me crying, laughing as soon as I see the guy. If I recognize him, that is actually is Michael. All the men look so much alike that I'm like, hey, Jimmy, how you doing? He's like, no, it's Mike. I'm like, oh, dude, this is how I
this is so
20 years. My cousin Eileen was the older sister that I ever had. Yeah, like I always wished that I had. Like she got me through so many things at the Citadel. And it's like they're great, but like I said, I could tell you a million stories, but one of the ones I was thinking about this week, and I was crying, I could not get through this story, so I apologize in advance now, was, Chris, this is where our worlds, combine, like the Polish and the Irish. The Irish live a certain way, and the Polish live a certain way when it comes to keeping up their property and things like that. And Irish and Polish maybe make, like fences make for good neighbors, as they say. But my cousins used to taunt this woman all the time because she was very, Mrs. Jesko, her name was. and she lived right next door. I mean, the houses, you could reach out and touch the house from one, like,
Right.
like tenement houses kind of a thing. And it was a really nice little neighborhood, but Mrs. Jesko, the yard was kept perfectly, you know, everything else, you know, but you could see into their yard from my cousin's yard. And the woman used to do, you know, traditional things, like she would do her laundry like Polish people do, like every single day, and she would hang it out on the clothesline. And apparently Mrs. Jesko is not a fan, particularly of the boys, because they were always up to mischief. And my Aunt Carol had made a meatloaf or some, you know, some suspected meal that was not appreciated by the kids. So while the meal was cooking, they didn't want to eat it or something to this effect. And I'm sure there's details here that I'm missing. Miss Jesko had her underpants hanging out on the clothesline. So they took the gravy-laden meatloaf or pot roast or whatever it was and decided to put it out on the clothesline into her underpants. So it looked like Miss Clean Polish Jesko would not put out those soiled underwear on any level until it was like bleached and clean.
A load of meatloaf in it.
Went back in the house, and they're like waiting for like something to happen, and they hear just Miss Jesko losing her, like, screaming, yelling, and Polish because the meatloaf is just dripping out of the underpants. And I never laugh, obviously. But I can, and literally that is just one story, and I was like, that is what Ireland is to me. Irish American is to me.
That's what it means
like,
to
my
me.
My cousins were the most genuine people you met. They are the funniest people I've ever known, and they embodied it to me. Like, I thought, like, isn't this how everyone lives? Like, they have these crazy cousins that are just like the kindest people, but they will wear you out and tease you on a level that. And again, this is the Irish thing that I grew up with. Like, my father used to say all the time, like when we were getting razzed by somebody, he'd be like, you know what that means? They like you.
Right.
Because when the Irish don't like you, you know they're going to deal with you. They're either going to ignore you or punch you in the face. You know what I mean? And that's just how the Irish work.
Right.
And that to me was like, that's Ireland to me. I mean, like I said, I did the Emerald Society and all these things. And people are like, oh, man, you're really Irish. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not as Irish as this. You know,
I'm not meatloaf in the underwear Irish.
Yeah, but the best story ever. But
I thought you were going to say with your cultures combining was like something to do with carrying lawnmowers downstairs into the basement after you cut the grass. Or something.
You didn't get to carry. You had to get that thing down by yourself. They weren't going to come help you.
I had never, until I knew you guys and/or Chrissy, I had never heard stories of carrying lawnmowers down into the basement after.
Oh yeah, and we had a garage. We had a garage.
Exactly,
I'm like,
right,
Dad,
exactly
why am I like,
garage.
it goes in the basement. Why is it going in the basement? We have a garage. And then you get smacked around. Like, don't ask a question. I want the lawnmower in the basement.
Right. People don't know this, but when you go to Ellis Island, actually you go there and see things at Ellis Island. There's pictures of the Poles and the Irish on those boats crying as they get through America, and they're holding their lawnmowers like goats and stuff. They had to clear customs with their lawnmowers and stuff that they brought from the.
I imagine like there's the church in Sean's old neighborhood in the stained glass. One of the images in the stained glass is a guy carrying a lawnmower down to the basement. You're like,
it's actually just a
okay, there's the Last Supper. Right. Yeah. There's Jesus on the cross, Last Supper lawnmower down to the basement.
The smoke billowing out like it's a
How did
like it's
they
a
not trip
Cadillac.
over their robes with sandals carrying that thing downstairs?
Right. It was quite blasphemous, you know. Simon and Cyrene helped Christ carry his lawnmower first. People didn't know this, but it was definitely wild. Scott was always skirting around the Irish because obviously he married.
I'm Irish adjacent.
Yeah,
Oh
right.
I'm Irish adjacent.
And it was very familiar to me when I finally met his wife's crew, the Hanley crew. I was like, oh, this is
Oh yeah,
familiar
that's
to me. The St. Gerald's in the basement, and the
yeah.
you know,
And I was introduced to that many years ago now. And the first time I came to that, again, I'm a Norwegian and partially German kid that lives in the western suburbs. I don't go to Southside Irish church basement parties, you know.
right.
That was new to me. But it turned out to be one of the most amazing and enjoyable parties annually that I've gone to for many years, decades now.
Right.
And just the fun, the camaraderie, the Irish dancers, all that good stuff, you know, it was always a blast. And the storytelling, to your point, like with my father-in-law, I've known this guy almost 30 years, about 30 years now, and he's still, we were out with him yesterday going to a car show, and he rattles off some random story that I'd never heard. I was like, where does this come from? And these are stories like, he was a young kid living in Chicago, and he's like 14, taking his parents' car and going and living up at their cabin up north, living in a cabin up north, almost on the border of Wisconsin, by himself in a hunting shack and eating squirrels.
Right.
And I'm
For
like,
what reason?
Right. Because he's Irish.
He's
Irish.
Irish.
That's what you do.
And it was so nonchalant. He's like, yeah, and I enrolled in high school, but I drove a car there. I was 14. I'm eating squirrels. I had a horse. It's like, what?
Right.
How are these things happening? How are you doing these things at 14?
And now you're looking at Boss Hog's Cadillac.
Right. And his stories are incredible. I mean, they're incredible. And you just get him going, and it's like just more and more stuff starts coming out. And I'm like, I hope you're just never stop telling me these stories, because they're just so entertaining. And it's kind of that similar Irish stuff. He says, and they also lived in Chicago. Their family, they had a big family and lived all in the same apartment building for a lot of years.
Oh, that's a big deal. Yeah, you buy a 3-flat, everybody takes the floor. Yeah,
and 15 people on one floor. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And there's one phone in the whole building that they all share.
It's like a college dorm.
Right.
And he's Daddy phone. And he's telling me this story about him and his cousin that somebody died in one of the apartments in this building, and the cops are there, and they're young kids, and they're kind of like just meandering through the police, and they're investigating whatever. And next thing you know, they're like in the room where this dead guy is, and trying to poke him with a stick. And I'm like,
crime scene containment, right.
And then he says, yeah, so it's like Stand By Me or something, And so then they take the mattress. The cops take the mattress down outside, and their evidence collection is they just light it on fire in front of them. They light the mattress on fire where the guy killed himself or died in front of the apartment building. And he goes, yeah, so we just saw the cops drag the mattress out, and they said, well, this thing's nasty. You just light it on fire, and then they left.
Much like the Irish, our evidence collection process has progressed for the better in the United States. Coming here as slaves originally, that term redneck came from the fact that, when the Irish worked out in the sun, things like that. So it's only funny. It's funny that you say that, because it's like, it made me think like, they say cops experience like hundreds of traumatic experiences throughout their career, so many of them that they forget about it and they just back. And like when you meet Irish people, they're like always telling you a story. Like you say to me all the time, how did I not hear that before? Like my Uncle Frank pointing with his foot to get people to a bar, or whatever. And it's just like, it's very similar. So I don't know, like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Were the Irish like there, or were they just naturally made to be cops because they just like, what's the big deal? Whatever.
Yeah, right.
Crazy stuff happens.
Yeah.
I have a pig in my front room, and then I gotta go work. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. My whole family died in the famine, and I'm super angry, so I'll deal with it by drinking and smashing somebody with a billy club. You know what I mean? Kind of thing.
Right.
Obviously, it's not all that, but like,
right.
I mean.
In earlier times.
It's got to be tough.
In earlier times.
Because like Chris and I have, Chris has got Casimir Pulaski. Chris, you don't have to talk about being Polish with Chris, because Chris like brings it to you. Folks.
Yeah,
What Poland is.
He oozes Polish.
Chris is it. You know what I mean? You look at him, and you go, he's like, this dude's gonna kill me. Look at the size of his bear paws, and then you realize what a great guy he is, how giving he is, what a good dude he is, and then it's just like right back to work. Like Chris, like Scott and I used to joke about, like, phone call, there he goes. We'll see him in 2 hours.
It's funny you say that, because we were at dinner the other day, and I went with my daughters, and it was Debbie's birthday this week, and they're we're all kind of dressed up and stuff like that, and these two dudes are at the bar, so our table's right next to the bar, and we're all chit-chatting and stuff, and these two dudes are looking at my daughters, and they're looking at me and looking at my daughter, and I got just a stone face, like, all right, and Christina goes, Dad, what you're not engaged, what are you thinking about? I'm thinking about how those two dudes are going to come over to him and have to kick their ass and not drop my drink and get back to your mother's birthday. She's like, what are you doing? I go, I got you. And she's like, okay, then we're all laughing, and then I'm looking, and then we're all laughing. She's like, you're like bipolar. I'm like, no, I'm just making sure that that nothing happens.
I'm always on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good though. I mean, hey, they know where you stand. That's for sure. Which is
Who
good.
doesn't say the daughters would not get a date, and I don't know why.
I mean, I always felt for Scott, Chris, because you and I always had something that we could fall back on the heritage. You know, St.
Yeah.
Patrick, St. Bridget, patron saints. You got Casimir,
Yeah.
Pulaski. Scott is a Norwegian or in German. Now it's tough. I mean, the Germans, you're notorious. You can't really everybody's like, oh, are you like Hitler? I mean, that's not cool. There's so many other great Germans.
There's lots of other German things.
Lazy Americans always associate you with a Nazi like the left does. But then I was like looking up Norwegian cult figures, and all I could come up with was the lead singer of Aha. And I was like, I guess that's why you can't talk. But that's why Scott every year would go down to the Bud Billiken parade, because he was just filling a hole in his life. He would just fight his way out of that thing. You know what I mean?
I'm lost. I don't have, and we don't go to the
emptiness.
Southside parade anymore. I mean, we do the St. Patrick's party, but yeah, I don't have
Right.
there. I mean, there is some small, Norwegian things here. I gotta go way west, out from my house out here where all my, farmer family was all buried. That was a lot of Norwegians, but again, not many parades, not many big things going on. I don't have any.
No, but when you Google Norwegian holidays, you don't even get. I think you get one like
There's nothing.
Norwegian holidays,
It's-
New Year's
there's nothing.
Day, Easter, Labor Day,
Really?
like Constitution,
Wow.
like that's all.
Right.
But you get
That's
Whit
all you
Monday, whatever that is. There's
Leif
Whit
Erikson
Monday.
Day or something.
Yeah, Ascension, the Ascension Day. Like that's kind of sucks. I mean, that's all of ours.
I got divorced before I became like a cop, and I was kind of single at the time.
Yeah,
I
you
used
were.
To, I used to cast,
Yeah,
I used to
you
cast
were.
a weary eye at Scott, like many Irishmen did when the Vikings came ashore. You're like, you're going to take our women. And, I was always looking at Chrissy. Hey, if it doesn't work out, right here. And thankfully, she knew better.
I was already spoken for.
Yeah, but it was one last Irish story. Lou Holtz passed away this week, and Scott
Yeah,
and I came
that guy.
together in the throes of the Fighting Irish, so to speak. My father's a diehard fan of Notre Dame football, and my brother-in-law went there as a young man, Bob.
The wizard.
Magic Bob.
The Magic Bob.
Magic Bob, that's it.
Zeke went there, and Scott would come to watch some of the games because Chris was always like, hey, Chris, you want to go see a Notre Dame game? Because Chris was a Notre Dame fan, but Chris was Chris. And he was like, no, I have work to do. Don't you understand? I can't go.
I got deals.
Frivolities of football. I'm like, okay, yeah. Well, so then Scott, I'm like, dude, you want to come? And Scott was like, yeah, I'll go. So we went out to a game. And Scott, do you want to take over? Because you're a good storyteller. Like, you've been around the Irish enough that you can tell a story. It's a good one.
Yeah, so we're at the Notre Dame blue and gold game, and we'd been tailgating and obviously drinking all day and having a good time, and we're leaving the game, and I was going to buy a hat or a shirt or something, and I walk up to it's like one of those trailers that they just open the side of, and it's got all the merchandise stuff in it, right? And I'm looking at the stuff, and I look at this dude next to me, and I've definitely had a few beers, but I'm looking at this guy next to me.
Thank God Chris isn't here.
I'm like, this guy looks familiar. Like, how do I know this guy? And so I look, and as he's buying a hat or something, and he's paying with his credit card, and he takes it. I see him open his wallet, and he takes his ID out. It's a California driver's license, and it's Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots.
Right.
And I had this moment of clarity. Wait a second. What the hell's happening here? And I just look over at him, and he's just super chill. Like, and I look over at him. I said, "Are you Scott Weiland?" And he looks at me and he goes, "Yeah." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, right.
Oh,
right.
What? I go, "What are you doing here?"
Right.
And he kind of looks at me like I'm an idiot. He's like, "I'm buying a hat." Oh, I mean, like, no, like
doing here.
Right. Why are you here? Stone Temple Pilots, like, why are you here at a Notre Dame game is more what I'm getting at,
Right,
so he's right
the
to
blue
me
and
like,
gold game, which
like
isn't
I'm
even
a
a
jerk
real
off.
game.
Right,
Right.
like,
It's
what
a
do you mean? I'm buying a
scrimmage.
hat. Like, what's your fucking problem?
Right.
And I said, no. Like, you're a huge deal. Like, why are you here at the Notre Dame game? And I'm kind of looking around like, shouldn't there
be a huge deal?
Like security or something?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm kind of looking around, and the only guy, and then now I see, like, off to the side, there's a guy with him that's probably his, like, security guy or something, whatever.
Handler.
and he says, "Oh yeah, my dad played football here back in the 50s or something."
Yeah. He
And
was a linebacker, I think.
yeah, and he goes, "So I come to a lot of the games, and he's got all the VIP, lanyards and stuff around his neck, and he's like, yeah, I can get down on the field and watch the game." And I'm like, holy shit.
This is Scott Weiland.
And I'm looking around for Shaun, like, hey, get over here. You got, look, what the hell's going on here?
Right.
And now, granted, this is like, I don't remember what year this was, but this was still like flip Nextel phones.
Yeah, right.
I mean, so
Chirp.
we're going.
Scott
we're
Chirp
going
when you come
back.
over there.
Yeah, chirp. Yeah,
Get over
here.
What's Scott Weiland? I was never expected.
And he's probably like, what? Like, what? Do I got to help him pick out a hat?
Just so everyone knows. Everyone knows.
Weiland.
I was at the grotto saying a prayer. Is what I was doing. So you know.
Right. So now here we are. We're talking. Me and Shaun are just talking to Scott Weiland like we're just three guys standing around a keg at a party, talking.
Right.
And I remember where your dad and Bob were at the moment. And of course, I'm like, "Hey man, can I take a picture with you?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." Like it's no big deal, And so Shaun's taking the flip phone picture, and I'm all giddy, like, "Oh, look at me, let's go!"
Right.
And so we just talked to him for another minute or two, and then he just like, no bullshit, says, "So what are you guys doing after this, or what do you guys do after this?"
Right.
And I froze. Like, what do you mean?
It was a precipice moment for us.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
And he says, and we're like, well, we got to go. We got like a 2.5 hour drive back to Chicago area. And he's like, oh, okay. I was just, I wonder if there was like anything to do around here after. And I don't know what happened, but we had to leave.
Yeah, well, because we drove with my brother-in-law and my father, Bob and my dad. We got there, and we it was a tradition. We would go to drink Bloody Marys, things like that, and do this thing. And like we could have got home. This was pre-Uber and stuff like that.
Right.
Somehow, some way, we could have taken the what is it, the South Shore Line train back.
Yeah, some train. Hey man, I would have taken a $500 taxi from there. I would.
Right. I would have bought tube
in
socks
hindsight,
outside of the train station, half tube socks.
I would have walked.
Yeah, right. And we're looking at each other, and like the wheels are spinning for both of us. We were at that point where like I was coming back into being an adult again. Like I was like, I got divorced, so I was like, yeah, I can go wild, kind of a thing. I didn't, heed the whole like let's get locked in. And Scott was a little younger than me, so we were both like at the same wavelength. Like, well, what? This could be wild.
What is he saying here?
Like he's asking to do stuff, and this was like honestly for Scott Weiland, this was a little post. Like he had dropped off a little bit. He had clearly had some issues with dependency and things like that, which unfortunately eventually claimed him. But we were both like, we're drug detectives, and we were like, we know where we could take him. We know exactly where we could go with this. And we could end up in some club. He's VIPing us in. And he's like, yeah, these guys are with me past the bouncers and shit like that. What are you two white squares from the suburbs? 630 guys don't belong here. We would have got in with him. We would have had the night of our life, like literally like, the bachelor party type thing, like, but it was no bachelor party.
It would have been like The Hangover, is what it would have been.
Yeah. And we were both like, gears are spinning. I'm looking over at my dad. My dad's giving me this look like, who the fuck is this guy? You know what I mean? It was this skinny polecat you're talking to. But immediately when I went to my dad, I go, it's Scott Weiland. And my dad starts spitting out mad facts about Scott Weiland's father.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know what I mean?
I'm
but he was calling me Kevin the entire time.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I'm sure. There's no playing trivial pursuit with you and your dad.
Right.
That's
It was awesome. And my brother-in-law, Bob's kind of a little more wise, and he's kind of looking at me like, I don't know, man. You could lose everything in this.
This is a dangerous road you could potentially be going down.
Scott and I are like communicating with each other like ants, like unspoken words. We kind of knew like, well, here's what we could do. And like we're thinking, Scott's like, I don't know, man, we could be like seriously doing that Pulp Fiction thing where we're trying to get him to come back alive after he does too heavy of a hit of Chicago heroin that we've seen too many times. And I'm like, and then we're like rolling up some prostitute's body in a fucking rug and dumping her in the Calsac Channel or something. This could be the wildest night of our lives. It was all pre-body cam and things like that. So maybe we would have got away with it.
Yeah, but we're in like a Marriott hotel outside of O'Hare Airport.
Right, like,
trying to bring him back to life.
And
I'm drinking $500 champagne out of the bottle, and he's like passed out in the corner. Like, dude, we got to go, man. We got to go. I haven't been home in 3 days.
Luckily, the Blessed Mother came to both of us, and we were on our way. You know what I mean? She was very helpful to us that night. The prayer at the grotto got us away from that, luckily.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
shortly thereafter,
Right.
he passed away, and we always tell the Scott Weiland story about that. Again, another reason that what the
It could have
Irish
been that
are
night. Could you imagine?
right.
And even Chrissy says to me after that, like, you guys should have gone. That would have probably been crazy. You should have gone.
Carrie was like,
I said, you realize who this is, right? Like, I'm not saying that, we would like get ourselves involved in something crazy, but just where would that go? I mean, he has no boundaries, probably, right?
No,
So
at
it's
that
just
point, he didn't. He clearly wasn't dealing with whatever it was that was
Right.
He was struggling with.
And I mean, I almost at this point feel better now just joking possibly about what the could have stories would have been, because who knows, it could have been,
Right.
if you really go somewhere with Scott Weiland, you're running the risk of potentially getting yourself into some trouble.
That's a tightrope.
Careers cut
That is a
short.
tightrope.
Immediate career change.
Right. It definitely would have been a lot for listeners, though. Like, those are those two cops that from the burbs that got popped with Scott Weiland's death. Like, we're like the Menendez brothers out there because we look so much alike. We're on trial in Cook County. You killed Scott Weiland. You too.
You failed to render aid. Dude, I tried. He had 8 bags of heroin in his system.
Like, he wanted us to stick the Narcan in his ass. Like, what did you want us to do? I'm not giving mouth to mouth to that guy.
I said it's the Seinfeld. You give him mouth to mouth. No, you give him mouth to mouth. Like, I don't want to put my mouth on Scott Weiland.
All those people on trial for Matthew Perry's death. That's anyway. But
rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Oh, rest in peace.
It was a moment in time. Definitely a moment in time.
And I'm hearing the whole Stone Temple Pilots background music as we speak. When when Shaun puts this together, it's gonna be quite the tribute.
It's like when you're there, you're doing it, and you realize, like, one, I'm there because I'm Irish. I'm association with it. Like my father, when they were young, they said the subway alum of Notre Dame were a lot of working class Irish. The Fighting Irish is a name that nobody wants them to give up. Oh, is it a negative stereotype of the Irish? I don't know about you, but I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that the Irish will fight, and they've done that throughout their history in this country. But as a cop, you've got all this knowledge of things that you're like, wow, we could really make this from what we know and what we practice on a day-to-day basis one of the single best stories in the history of law enforcement. And we looked out the abyss, and the abyss stared back and turned around and
walked away.
Walked away.
Suburban lives, our safe cable television, and bad food and everything else. Anyway, but there you have it. So that's our Irish story for the week, or for the episode.
Oh my God, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And now we're 27 minutes in on this fucking thing, so it's
right.
This is almost a full episode now. So anyway, go ahead.
Real quick, what if we just roll a little more and just do? I mean, you want to just roll a little more and just keep it? I mean, or
yeah,
got enough time to put towards this?
Like, what other do you got? Obviously, I'll edit all this part out. But any other Irish stories you got, Chris? Like from the Debbie side of that, like Mr. Noonan. I mean, I'm not trying to get out of this. Like,
no,
do you got anything
no.
Irish? Because Deb's pretty Irish.
Or
Noonan is
throw
a
out
fucking
a Polish, throw in
or a Polish thing,
another.
Oh my God,
Irish crossover.
Jesus. The what?
Some Polish crossover for us. We could do that.
Oh my God. I don't know. Where do I start?
Embracing your heritage. I don't know what I'll title this one. I'll come up with something, but
I'm trying to think of some other good.
I mean, embracing our heritage. I mean, as we were young, you had to do it. We had you had no choice. You had the Polish food. You had the thing.
I could tell the quick story about like getting married in Catholic church and with all these Irish people, and how the priest referred to me as the non-Catholic, and we went to pre-Dana and all that shit, and how uncomfortable I was.
Yeah, if we get to like the 40-minute mark, I'll be able to edit in a lot of things. Chris, I would like you, if you're cool with it, to kind of some Polish story, what makes like Poles, because like there's a thing I was reading an article about how the Polish churches in Chicago are dying. Like they're dying because all the Poles moved out to the burbs.
Right.
And like how people don't realize how
that one. Yeah.
How
I listened to that.
Like huge of a Polish city Chicago is. Like you hear about the Irish, but like the Poles just kind of keep it to themselves. Like something we got to have something for the Poles in there. I think
there was something. It was, basically Chicago was pretty much just Polish and Irish. You had you had your little sections and everything else, but and that's why we got along. But yeah, no, everybody's moving out to the suburbs. But yeah, my church to this day when I down in Chicago is still primarily Polish.
Yeah. So do you want to like Scott? You do yours, and then
Scott, you do it. Try,
and then we can close out with Chris's thing, right? And then we'll have enough time.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, that was crazy. So, I mean, that was definitely an experience. Definitely an experience I won't forget. And speaking of, as we talk about, this rattles my brain with some of the things that I've learned of being so close in the Irish community for all these years. I still laugh about, we just recently had an anniversary and a story back to when we were getting married, me being the Methodist, the John Wesley type, we decided that we were going to get married in a Catholic church, and there, her whole family's very Catholic.
Oh, you didn't decide. You had no choice.
Well, right.
Yeah. You didn't decide shit. Yeah, you didn't decide shit, bro.
To New Testament.
Yeah, I make it sound like it's a negotiation, and all them, all her family's like, Methodist? What the hell is what's a Methodist?
They have sex before marriage, Dad.
Yeah, are you those non-dancing, no cockfighting people? Who are you people?
Yeah, right. At least it'll be easy to convert.
Right. So I didn't know what pre-Cana was, like this thing that you got to go to when you get married, when you're Irish. And I don't even remember where you got to write each other's stories and do these little activities, some kind of Catholic activities. I don't even know what it was.
You guys got married 30 years ago. They've tightened that up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like modernized,
Yeah. Because of my caring and compassion and love, I said I will certainly participate in the pre-Cana.
Right.
And what was funny was when we were doing this, the guy kept he would refer to me as the non-Catholic. We would talk about stuff, and it was always you as the non-Catholic and him as the non-Catholic, like I had leprosy or something. Right. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I get it. You guys are pretty strict. I'm cool. I can handle that. And so we went through that whole thing. And after we get married, and I think I'm trying to remember, the story was something like the priest that married us, he was a family friend, of course, Irish, something, and married her parents or something. And I apologize, I'm probably messing that story up. But, you got to invite the priest to the reception, and you got to give him a little something for the effort.
Right, right.
You gotta give this guy some
couple shekels.
Right. So I would make the joke. Of course, I would never do this, but I would make the joke to Chrissy and say, "Well, yeah, I wonder if I'm going to ask him how that Methodist money spends.
It's still green. It's still green like the Irish. Right?
Yeah, that Methodist C note spends just the same in your collection plate as it does in mine. So, of course, I did not say that.
Yeah, because you're married, so obviously you didn't say that.
Right. I thought it, and I mean, safe to say that I'm not usually one who just spouts out things that they're thinking about.
No, and that's a good thing, and that might cause problems.
Right. I really learned about how that's affected my life over the years. So,
well, see, my church was predominantly Polish, and our pre-Cana was like we didn't like ask a Pole to write a fucking love story. Well, I came, I saw, I worked. Yeah, right. I'm like, and then so you're sitting in pre-Cana like, well, what do? I work and take care of my family. Okay, do you love her? Yeah, because I'm working and taking care of her. No. What? Yeah, but no. I mean the whole thing, the whole pre-Cana is
Your love is expressed generally through polkas, Chris. It is. It is. I mean, you not feel happy after a polka's done. Dawn Patrol polka for 3 hours in a basement of a church. I mean, is that not love? I mean, how do you put up with
that? Is love.
Oh, but that's the thing. I mean, as Poles, we just like that's what we do. Like, I mean, and because we were I lived in a predominantly Polish neighborhood. I mean, seriously, it was Svarczynski, Kowalski. It was like the whole area. And you have, and when you go to church on Sunday, it's really, really angelic, when you guys sit there and,
right.
But afterwards, you go, and whenever you go to a wedding or you're at these, church functions, unlike the Irish, they're drinking, dancing. We're dancing polkas, but in the middle of it, we're cutting deals. Like, hey, I got to work on, can you take my shift? Wait, oh my God, you see this brick out of place? Like it just never stops. It just never stops. But now you see a lot of people with the, with the high crime and stuff in the city, a lot of Poles are moving out. I mean, and they move out in droves. I mean, they'll move out like a whole block will sell the block and they'll buy a block in the suburbs. But if you watch, it's like literally within a 5-mile radius of a Catholic church, because they're it's just a very, very, very tight knit community. And the unfortunate part about it is Chicago's losing a lot of Poles, a lot of Irish to the suburbs, and a lot of that heritage is going away. And it's just it's sad because, oh my God, it is so funny. Like, you would go to, and you go to a neighborhood, like we went to this club, Jadwinka is what the 1, 2, 3, and you go there and it doesn't matter. Like if you're Polish and you're fighting each other all of a sudden and some dude that you don't even know jumps in, he gets his ass kicked. It's like this whole combination of,
it's a community.
It's a community, the next day you're building a chimney together or something. But I just think, I just think with everything going on, I mean, you see a lot of people and it's really hurting the Catholic Church because Polish people, man, they take care of their churches.
They are very devout.
They are very devout.
Same
like you go there,
I grew up in, Irish and Polish is the same way. There's Irish churches and Polish churches, and what's happening in the city of Chicago, at least, is I can think of it as I guess they said there was 14 or so massive Polish churches that are now shuttering because all the Poles moved out and went to the burbs. And again, when you ride into Chicago, you don't realize this until you get there. You see all of these massive steeples and churches, and you see when you're on the expressways, you can see them as you're coming in. You're like, man, and a lot of those places are shuttering up. They're not using them anymore because there's just nobody there to practice it. The faith is left. I mean, obviously Chicago as a city is becoming a lot less blue collar white and blue collar Chicago as a city is becoming a lot less blue collar, to be honest with you. It's, it's the privileged and those that, take care of the privilege, so to speak, or whatever. So it's really sad to see, but it's a really great city for the history of that. And it was built by ordinary Americans. That's Chicago's motto when I first got there was this city that works. And it was because it was built upon a major city that size, built in the Midwest, based upon blue collar laborers. And you see the love of God in their churches. You know what I mean? And it's really sad thing to see.
I thought they would have brought all the bricks out with them. Like they would just take it apart and bring the bricks.
Right.
Just rebuild it.
You see the steeples? Wait a minute. St. Ferdinand's used to be on Belmont. What is it doing in Schaumburg?
Wait a second. This is the only Pulte neighborhood with a 1920 brick by brick church built in the center of it. Yeah. They don't have a swimming pool, but they got this giant church. I don't know what the HOA is going to say about this.
Right.
I don't think the HOA is going to really have any traction with the Poles.
Yeah, no.
It's I'm sure the Poles said this about the Irish, how do they live this way? And the Irish looked at the Poles and said, why do they live this way? You know what I mean?
Your HOA meeting is Stan and Vlad. What? Right, with a vote. Right. There's 2 of you. Right.
We are the vote.
We are the vote. But all right, I'll give you guys one quick Polish story. So you were talking about evidence, right? When they burned that mattress. So my uncle and a bunch of my friends and stuff were, old time. Their parents, I should say, grandparents were, because your generation in the city of Chicago, you've got cops for generations. You're 3rd generation, 4th generation cops.
Right.
So my uncle, who was on the job 35, 40 years, so I'm riding with him, and you're totally not supposed to do this, but I'm riding with him. And we go to a fight in progress, and it's a 3-flat. You get there, and it's you couldn't. It's all Polish, and they're all yelling and screaming and going back and forth and whatever. And Wally did this to Elizabeth and blah blah blah. You're going back and forth. So my uncle gets in there. He gets out with his his kuba. What do you call those things? So kuba, just his baton, right? He gets out there with his wooden stick, and you got to imagine this is a Polish party, so there's 200 people on a block in this 3-flat. He gets out by himself with the stick, and they're going back and forth for 2 minutes. And all of a sudden, my uncle goes, "All right, this stops now. and I need some evidence that I was here. And everybody's kind of looking at him. This guy, and literally there's a guy on the ground knocked out. Now he's breathing, knocked out. Nobody's tending to this guy, right? They're all like, in Polish, I find out later, they're like, yeah, no, he's fine. He's fine. He's, he's out.
Or just he got knocked out by a big Polish bear.
He's out. So they're going around and they're like, all right, I need some evidence. And the one guy that knocked him out took his shirt off, hands it to my uncle, goes, his blood's on here. Anything else? That was it. and all of a sudden it dispersed. Right.
He's the godfather of my children. You know what I mean? That guy that's playing,
right.
Full of his own blood.
Oh, Jesus. But yeah, I mean, I just think that the sad part about it is that the close knit, the old saying, it takes a village, because I mean, you couldn't go anywhere. Like if I was down the block, if I did something stupid, by the time I got home, I knew about it, because Mrs. Kowalski was calling my mom. I mean, and back in the day, they had to dial the rotary. I mean, they could dial that thing faster than a touch tone. By the time you get home, you're getting your ass whooped for something you did, a block, 2 minutes ago. Yeah. But I just think,
There's no investigation. Mrs. Kowalski's word was gospel.
Right. Her word is gold.
Right.
What did you? Why am I? Mrs. Kowalski said so. Oh, okay.
Oh, damn.
Chris put a meatloaf in my underpants.
What? Anyway, that's great.
God.
I was glad we could reminisce through the start of March here,
Well, I'll tell you what, this has been a great show, and everybody, thank you. This is coming out right before St. Patrick's Day?
It'll be before St. Patrick's, yeah.
Okay, well, all you Irish and Poles hang out together. And if you see a Norwegian naked by himself drinking a Diet Coke and a Jack Daniels, bring him into the group. He's cool. Bring him in. Give him the horn hat and bring him on in. He gets he gets Labor Day. So give it to him. All right. Everybody, please go out, have fun, be careful, take care of each other, and please spread the word on our show. Go to where you get your podcast, leave a rating, review, download, subscribe. Go to 3copstalk.com. You get old episodes, and you can leave us an email there where you want to be on the show, have a suggestion for a show, idea for a show, comments, criticisms. We'll listen to them, and we will read them all. You can also do that at 3copstalk@gmail.com. And please spread the word. We're trying to make this world a better place with some comedy and reality to bridge the gap between civilians and police. Have a blessed day and a safe St. Patrick's Day. And Casimir Pulaski Day.